If your life feels stable, but nothing's really expanding, if you know you're capable of more, but you're kind of operating at the same level you've been for a while, there's a good chance you're not stuck. You're comfortable. And comfort can quietly become a ceiling. Most people think comfort is a good thing. It feels responsible, it's balanced, it feels like you've figured things out. But comfort is really just familiarity. It's predictable outcomes. It's effort you already know how to give. It's functioning at a level that doesn't really stretch you beyond who you currently are. When you're comfortable, you're not risking much. You're not risking looking foolish. You're not risking failing publicly. You're not risking being misunderstood or outgrowing the version of you that everyone around you is used to. And that feels stable. But stability and growth are not the same thing. Your brain is wired for efficiency and safety. Once you reach a level that feels acceptable, it relaxes. It stops pushing. Not because you reached your full potential, and not because you've maxed out your ability, but because you've reached your comfort threshold. That's why plateaus happen. In weight loss, in fitness, in business, in relationships, even in personal growth. You improve, you build momentum, raise your standard a little, and then eventually that new level starts to feel normal. It stops feeling hard. It stops feeling threatening. It just becomes your baseline. And for a lot of people, that's where they stay. Not because they can't go further, but because it finally feels manageable. It feels safe. It feels like, this is good. This is better than before. I don't need to push it. But here's the part that's easy to miss. Growth doesn't stop when you improve. It stops when you stop stretching. Comfort expands with you. What used to feel difficult eventually feels automatic. What used to feel impossible eventually feels standard. And unless you deliberately raise the standard again, you just live inside the upgraded comfort zone. That's the ceiling. And most people never realize they're living under it. Comfort also has a way of disguising itself as wisdom. It tells you you're being realistic. It tells you you're protecting your balance. It tells you you're being sustainable. And sometimes that's true. But sometimes it's just avoidance in a more acceptable form. Because the next level of your life requires a version of you that feels unfamiliar. It requires behaviors that feel awkward at first. It requires visibility that feels exposed. It requires responsibility that feels heavier than what you're used to carrying. And that discomfort is often interpreted as a red flag. It's not a red flag. It's a growth signal. If something feels out of range, that doesn't automatically mean it's wrong. It often just means you're expanding beyond your current capacity. You're stretching your identity. You're operating beyond what feels automatic. Normal range isn't what's socially reinforced. It's what most people around you are doing. It's what feels typical and acceptable. Optimal requires structure. It requires discipline. It requires intentional effort. Beyond optimal requires something more deliberate. It requires choosing to operate slightly outside of what feels natural. Not in a reckless way, but in a purposeful way. Operating out of range on purpose means you don't wait for it to feel easy. You don't wait for it to feel completely safe. You raise your standards before you feel fully ready. And over time, that new level becomes familiar. Then you expand again. That's how capacity is built. Not dramatically, not emotionally, not through constant intensity, through deliberate escalation. Comfort isn't bad. It's useful. It's a place to stabilize. It's a place to recover. But if you never challenge it, it becomes the boundary of your results. If you only operate where you feel confident, you'll never build new competence. If you only move when it feels easy, you'll never increase your capacity. If you only stay where you feel understood, you'll never discover what you're actually capable of handling. There's a version of you beyond your current comfort threshold. Stronger, more disciplined, more capable. But you don't access that version accidentally. You access it when you decide that comfort is not the goal. Comfort is a tool. It is not the destination. If you want different results, at some point you have to step slightly beyond what feels normal, slightly beyond what feels automatic, slightly beyond what feels safe. Beyond optimal doesn't feel comfortable. It feels out of range on purpose. Until next time.